Collinwood in the year 1840. Barnabas Collins and Julia Hoffman have come to this time hoping to change history and avert the tragedy that occurred at Collinwood in the year 1970. But they have found that somehow history has undergone a tragic change. Quentin Collins and his son Tad are already dead, lost at sea. There has been no sign of the governess Daphne, but the evil Gerard is there as an intimate of the family. They know there is intrigue and evil within the house, and they must find a way to cope with it. They do not know that in a house not far away, a young man recently returned from the Orient and has brought with him an object of absolute evil.
Mother, come back here! Well, he certainly gave a reaction I never expected.
Mr. Desmond, what on earth did you do to your mother?
I just played a little joke, Ben.
What kind of joke? I just brought her a message from Mr. Barnabas, and she wasn't fit to be spoke to.
Well, I'll go and see her in a few minutes.
Young man ought not to go round scaring his mother like that.
I didn't expect to scare her, Ben. I mean, all I did was show her this.
That thing. Whatever possessed you to bring it here?
Well, I intended to give it to Quentin. What is the matter with you, Ben? It's just a reproduction of a head.
No, it's more. Something about it. Something that brings back memories. Bad memories.
Oh, look, you could never have seen this thing before. I just brought it from the Far East.
You ought to send it back there, Mr. Desmond, right now. Get rid of it, or it gets rid of us. Had enough tragedy in this house. We don't need any more.
Well, I better cover you up, my friend. You seem to have a terrible effect on everyone but me.
Julia told me everything about Quentin and Tad, and then she had to go upstairs and look after Roxanne. Now, Ben, there's some questions I want to ask you.
I didn't know what's happened to you. You've changed since that night at the mausoleum. It's like you was a different person.
I'll explain everything to you when I have more time. But for now, I want you to tell me everything you know about Gerard Stiles.
Much to tell. He puts on the charm a lot, but that don't fool me none. I wouldn't trust him from here to there.
But what is he doing here? What do you think he's up to?
He's up no good. You can be sure of that. I don't know what he wants, but he ain't made a move for it yet, as far as I know.
Well, I suppose I'll be meeting him sooner or later. But there's one other thing that I want to know about. First of all, I have to meet Daniel Collins as soon as possible.
But Mr. Daniels, the one person in this house who might recognize you as the original Barnabas Collins.
I am aware of that. That's why I must risk seeing him now. Ill as he is, I must have Daniel Collins on my side.
Good evening, Mr. Daniel.
Good evening, Ben. I'm glad you're here. I want you to help me. I'm writing a note. That wastrel son of mine.
You mean Mr. Gabriel?
Good heavens, no. Quentin. You've heard what he's done, haven't you? He's appropriated funds from the family business.
Mr. Daniel, look at me. Mr. Daniel, you know you couldn't write no note to Mr. Quentin because he's dead.
Quentin dead?
I told you. Don't you remember? Mr. Quentin was lost at sea.
Lost at sea? He always loved the sea, Ben. Well then, we must make the proper funeral arrangements.
Mr. Daniel, I come up to tell you there's someone waiting downstairs who's real anxious to see you. A relative.
Ah, rubbish, I'll have none of that. I know my relatives too well. They all come with outstretched palms.
This one ain't like that. This one is Barnabas Collins.
Barnabas Collins? Yes, you're right. He is different. Where is he? I must see him.
Hello, Cousin Barnabas. Is Samantha still upstairs with Roxanne?
Yes, I believe she is.
Has Roxanne's condition improved any?
Yes, she's regained consciousness. My sister is up there with her now.
I see. Has she been able to tell anyone who it was that attacked her in the woods?
As a matter of fact, she hasn't been able to remember anything about the attack at all.
What a shame. Actually, I don't believe it was a wild animal who attacked her.
Why do you say that?
The wound on her neck could not have been caused by any animal known in this area.
Well, if it wasn't an animal, what do you suppose it was?
I don't know. It's a complete mystery to me. You know, for some reason, I never knew we had relatives in England. What part of England are you from?
London,
Where in London?
Cadogan Square.
What a shame. When I was there, that I didn't look you up.
That is a shame. You must be Daniel Collins.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I've been waiting so long for you to come back. You look exactly as you did when I was just a boy. Barnabas, it's amazing.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, Cousin Daniel.
Mistaken?
This seems to be your night for being confused with your father.
Desmond, what are you doing here?
Why, I just came by to inquire about Roxanne's condition.
Roxanne? What the devil is he talking about?
Don't get yourself all upset, Mr. Daniel. I'll explain it to you later.
Well, Barnabas, you had us worried for quite some time, you know, running off to England like that, and then we never heard from you.
Oh, no. You've got it wrong. You confused me with my father. It was my father who went to England in 1797.
1797? Your father?
Mr. Daniel, it's 1840 now.
You're so like your father. Understanding and patient. He never lived here, you know. He lived in the old house. I lived there too, but only briefly, before Collinwood was built.
Oh, I'm very fond of the old house, even though I've never been there. But my father has told me many things about it and all the pleasant memories he has of life there.
Yes. Those were peaceful, happy days. Up until the end. But then we don't think about that. Ben, I want you to take Mr. Barnabas to the old house tomorrow. Then, if you like it, you can stay in it as long as you like.
Well, thank you, Cousin Daniel. That's very generous of you.
Who is this young man, Ben? What's he want?
Permit me to introduce myself. Gerard Stiles, Esquire. You, I take it, are Daniel Collins?
I am, sir.
But Ben, aren't you going to introduce me to this other gentleman?
This is Mr. Gerard Stiles. This is Mr. Barnabas Collins, a cousin from England.
A pleasure, sir.
How do you do?
May I ask what your business is in this house, sir?
Mr. Daniel, he lives here.
What?
This is the young gentleman that brought us the news about Mr. Quentin's death.
You were with Quentin on the night he died?
We were the best of friends, sir. I was first mate aboard the China Sea.
I want to hear how it happened, Mr. Stiles, if you will be good enough to tell me.
Now, Mr. Daniel...
I want to hear how my son died, Ben. Please go on.
Well, actually, there's very little to tell. We had just maneuvered the vessel through the Straits of Magellan when one of those storms, a peculiar one of the area, struck us very hard. Quentin was at the bow. From where I was standing, I could see him. He was in grave danger. Water was coming over the decks. I shouted at him to get below, but he paid no attention to me. I was going towards him. I was forever being knocked down by the waves and the strong wind when finally I was merely 20 feet from him when I saw Tad, his son, who had somehow gotten to him and was forcing him to get below. But just then, one of the biggest waves I had ever seen struck. I thought the bow would go under. When I picked myself up, they were both gone.
You mean Tad is dead, too?
We was going to tell you, Mr. Daniel. We was waiting for you to get over the news of Mr. Quentin.
I tried everything I could, sir. I brought a lifeboat down immediately. I hate myself for failing.
You risked your life, sir. I am grateful to you for it.
He would have done the same for me, sir.
And now, you'll forgive me. Suddenly I'm very tired. Where are my pills, Ben?
You're in your room.
I want to hear more about poor Roxanne.
I'll take you upstairs now, Mr. Daniel.
I'll come with you, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Barnabas. I can take care of him by myself now.
All right, Ben. I'll talk to you downstairs.
Thank you.
Why are we the way we are, Ben?
I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Daniel.
We're a family born to tragedy. We seem somehow to invite it and then thrive on it. What's wrong with us?
You just try and get some sleep.
It's so strange seeing Barnabas and then hearing about the attack on poor Roxanne. Made me think back to the winter of 1797. All the terrifying things that happened. The strange and vicious attacks in the village. The rumors about Angelique. The suicide of Barnabas Collins' mother.
What happened, Ben? What caused it all? I don't know, Mr. Daniel.
What frightens me is the terrible feeling it's going to happen to us again. Some incredible horror that none of us knows anything about yet.
Daniel, do you remember some time ago the newspapers told about a series of murders down Bedford Way? There was a petrified head mixed up in it some way.
The Bedford atrocity.
Exactly. How much do you remember about it?
I remember several murders. And there was a legend about that strange disembodied head. Yes, I read about it much later. In that book Millicent showed me. Yes. Yes, of course. You must ask Millicent what she did with that book.
Daniel, Miss Millicent, she's dead.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, But the book must still be there. She always kept everything in that attic storeroom. Poor little dear. She never had a happy day in her life. But the book, it's there.
Relics of the anti-saints. I got to see Mr. Desmond. I got to tell him to destroy that awful thing before it destroys us.
I'm glad you're still here, Mr. Stiles. We didn't get a chance to talk earlier.
And how is old Daniel?
Old Daniel is resting. How long have you been at Collinwood, Mr. Stiles?
Well, ever since I brought the news of Quentin's death. Several months now. I suppose I was invited here out of gratitude.
You know, I'm most intrigued by your story of the tragedy at sea. Could you tell me more about that?
Well, why not? What would you like to know?
Did Quentin actually die at sea?
Well, of course he did. There could be no question about that.
Did you see the body?
No. You know very well it was hard to retrieve it.
So there was no final proof that Quentin Collins is actually dead.
You heard what I told the old man. He couldn't have possibly survived. Now tell me, why all these questions?
Merely curious.
Are you trying to tell me that you don't believe my story?
I'm not trying to tell you anything.
Because my story is true. And once more, I don't owe any more explanations to anybody.
I didn't say you did.
Good night, Mr. Collins.
Good night. Ben. Where are you going?
Something I have to do, Mr. Barnabas, right now.
What's that?
The less said about it, the better. I'll be back as soon as I do what I have to do. Mr. Desmond, you around here? devil is everybody? Evil. Desmond's got to destroy it for all our sakes. About you. I know all about you. I'm going to tell everyone so you'll be destroyed. You won't stop me. Don't come near me.